This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com/psychetruth.
Hi guys, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be doing a arm and pec massage, and I'm going to go ahead and get started without any oil. So I'm working on the lovely Taya today, and first thing is I always make sure that the hair is nice and pulled back. My client has long hair, and I'm going to do alternating shoulder compressions to start. It's a really nice way to take some of the pressure off of the neck and also just introduce my touch in a way that's more relaxing. So I'm just going to go ahead and nice and slow to start, and I'm just going to start like a cat kind of walks their paws. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start walking my hands a little bit and just encouraging these shoulders to relax. And I might walk the heels of my hands down the shoulder a little bit, kind of pressing on different parts of the shoulder. And this is also an opportunity for me to tune into my own body. So really, even in this simple movement, I'm moving my whole body and not just my arms. That's really the quickest way to get tired fast, is trying to do things not as a whole unit. And once I feel like these shoulders are starting to relax a little bit, I'm gonna actually go in with my oil. And I'm actually just gonna end with both shoulders, just compressing the shoulders down. So it's more away from the ears than towards the table. So the way that I do pectoral work on women is often different, just, because of the obvious. It's a little harder to access the pectoral muscles. So you always want to make sure that you have consent. A lot of women, if they haven't had massages, it can be a little bit, uncomfortable. So I'm starting towards the center of the chest, and I'm just starting to work my way towards the shoulders using the pads of my fingers. And just staying tuned into my own body and just starting to relax into a nice flow. And as I start to spend a little bit more time here, I might find a few spots that feel a little more tight, and you can actually just linger over those spots. And I'm actually gonna start to go in one side at a time. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can actually just stack your hands. And it's a nice way to do deeper work. So I'm just going to start sliding my pads of my fingers on the left hand down. I'm letting my top hand assist with a little more pressure. Focusing a lot on the origin, so the center of the chest more. And you can actually go in from this angle as well, but it can be really tender, so you just have to be careful that you're not moving too quickly. And also, if your hand is getting tired, you can always change the position of your hands. I feel a lot more comfortable with this hand. on top, kind of guiding my left hand. And as I transition from each thing, just staying connected to my client. So anytime that you lift your hands away from your client, there's like a readjustment when you place your hands back. So I'm going to start holding a little bit longer. I'm going to do a little more trigger point. And when I release that trigger point, I continue the movement down. I don't just abruptly stop. And you can do the same thing, opposite direction. And you do, again, you just need to be a little bit careful with this area because it can be pretty tender. So I just snorted. You could like hear like I have a cold. Don't worry, I have like 3 COVID shots. But let me just start over with that. I'm going to go ahead and finish with this left side. And I like to just revisit kind of both sides at the same time before I go in to the other side. And at this point, you should be, if you're doing this massage with me, you should be feeling a lot more sensitive to the needs of your client or your friend who you're working on. And I'm going to go ahead and start with this right side. So I'm going to go ahead and move in with a slightly firmer pressure. So I'm going to just stack my hands. And this is a great technique if you're wanting to do deeper work with this side angle. So first I like to do a few runs down towards the shoulder before I start doing any kind of trigger point work. And finally, I'm going to start to just hold and release. And hold and release. And maybe each time just going, incrementally deeper. And finally, I'm going to start kind of working in from this different angle. So I'm going to start just going in. And with this, it's the same thing. You don't want to go in with maximum pressure to start, kind of just starting to and just a little bit more in here. I'm going to go ahead and get closer to this origin and just start working my way in towards the attachment a little bit more. And then work my way down. And something to remember when you're doing massage is it's like you're painting a picture where you're making progress, but you're not trying to, perfect anything. So it's just like feeling like the work you did was perfect in that area instead of feeling like you're incomplete with the work that you did. It's just a lot more productive, if that makes sense. And I'm just gonna end this work here in the pectorals before I move into the arms. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this basic arm massage. So first I like to just look at the position of the arm, and I like to make sure that the front of the arm is nice and exposed. So I'm just going to bend that elbow a little bit. So with this, starting to apply the oil, you just want to make sure that your pressure up is nice and light, so that you don't shove the shoulder up by the ear. And even with something simple like this, just starting to tune into a sort of rhythm. And finally, I'm going to start just working my way into the shoulder a little bit more. And using the same technique of stacking my hands, and I still have the pads of my fingers that have a ton of sensitivity, but I can use a little bit more pressure when I stack my hands. And if you noticed, I'm just making sure that Taya's arm is nice and stabilized, so I'm just holding on with my left hand as I start working my way into that arm a little bit more. And just finding a nice firm pressure as I work my way up the arm towards the shoulder. And just keeping it pretty simple today. And I'm going to just go ahead and work my way into the forearm. I'm noticing my back is actually getting a little sore, and I'm needing to widen my stance with my feet a little. And I'm going to go ahead and work my way into the forearm. So same thing, you just want to make sure that the arm is nice and stabilized with your opposite hand. And I'm using the heel of my hand to work my way up the forearm. You can even use a soft fist if that feels more comfortable for you. This is a really nice position for the wrist as well. It's nice and safe. And working on the forearms is actually a nice way to relieve some pressure on the pectorals. It kind of seems weird, but it's all connected. So I'm just going to go in with my thumb a little bit and work my way into these extensor muscles a little bit. And you might need to change position of the muscle to access that muscle belly a little easier. So I'm just gonna work my way in a little deeper. And I'm gonna go ahead and open up Taya's arm and work on this inner part of the forearm. And really using my whole thumb just to make it a little more tolerable. And just finding a rhythm. So what I mean by that is not being super choppy in my movements, really finding a nice flow. And so it would feel weird to just end with that. So I kind of like to end each side with how I started. And I like to just offer the arm a nice little stretch. So I might just pull on that wrist a little bit and encourage that shoulder down in a different way. And moving to the opposite side. And I'm going to go ahead and start with this opposite side, just making sure I have a nice, wide, healthy stance. And same thing, just light pressure on the way up. And I'm actually going to make sure there's a little oil on that inner part of the forearm for later. Not spending quite as much time on this side, but being sure to just encourage that shoulder to relax. And going in with the heel of my hand. And at the end of that, kind of using my thumb a little more. And the whole time just making sure that Taya's arm is stabilized with my opposite hand. And not explaining everything as much, so just moving a little bit quicker. And I will say with that extensor, you want to make sure that the palm is flat to start. So as I bring my hand down, I'm moving my whole body, working as a whole unit. And I might start moving a little bit slower. You can do trigger point with a broader surface, the heel of your hand if you want. And finally, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to bend Taya's wrist a little bit to isolate that extensor a little bit more. And just doing a little bit more detailed work. And you just need to be, mindful of not overworking your thumb or putting it in too much of an angle with that thumb joint. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this arm a little bit. This is really healthy work for anybody that spends a lot of time in front of a computer. And again, just coming back to something where you can kind of tie everything together. And just grab hold of that wrist and offer a little decompression to the wrist joints and bring that shoulder down. And that is it for today. thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed today's massage. And I just wanted to thank a few of our patrons. I'm just going to look away from the camera for a minute. So Sapir Z, Kevin, Hogan, and Stefan, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate you and look forward to seeing you in our next video.